Welcome to my film review of Racing in the Rain. Now, I will set the pretext as to why I wanted to see this movie. I knew nothing about it, other than I saw the picture, it had a dog in it. Ka-ching! I'm pretty much guaranteed I'm going to go and watch this movie, it's got a dog in it. And then also the title, Racing. Racing in the Rain. Is that a metaphor? Does it have anything to do with racing? Well, maybe, because it says racing. I love Formula One. I've watched it my whole life with my dad. Mad into motorsport in general. So, dogs and racing. This had all the ingredients to be an amazing movie. Now, I actually got to the cinema 10 minutes late for this one. And it didn't seem to matter. As I walked in, a race was taking place. Yes, it is genuinely about racing. Fantastic. It wasn't just a weird title metaphor. So I was pleased about that. And straight away, there's the dog. Yes, there's a dog in it as well. So, this movie had all the ingredients to be brilliant. And at best, it was average, I'm afraid. It was somehow disappointing. It was a weird movie. Okay, so without telling you too much, obviously, about the storyline, I didn't know anything about I hadn't read the script, I hadn't seen a trailer, I just literally saw the picture and had the title. That'll do me. Went to see it, knowing nothing about the movie, didn't know what it was about. And for a lot of the movie, I still didn't know what it was about. About an hour into the movie, I was still thinking, what is this movie about? Didn't quite know. And to summarise, it's about human life and the struggles that humans can go through in life. You know, good things don't always happen. Bad things often do happen. Struggles with work, struggles with relationships, etc., etc. So that is the pretext of what the movie is essentially about. And like I say, it's got a dog in it. And that should mean it's excellent. But unfortunately, the use of the dog wasn't quite my cup of tea. So, to help you understand, if you've seen any of the recent Dog's Life, Dog's Purpose, Dog's Journey, I saw the one that came out this year at the cinema. Was it A Dog's Journey? And you've got you've got a dog. It's not CG animated like in some movies. It's just a dog with a voiceover actor. And it bugged me a little bit. I didn't really like the voice of the dog. I prefer like Marley and Me, Turner and Hooch, Canine, where the dog doesn't talk, but you, as a compassionate human being who loves dogs and is a dog owner, you look into the eyes of the dog and you put the words in your own head. You make it up yourself as to what you think the dog's thinking, just like you do with your own dog at home. You tell yourself you know what the dog's thinking. So I didn't like that about those particular movies, and they've used that exact same concept in this. But at least with the other movies, the dog's voice was kind of Disney cute. It was kind of like a cute little dumb dog, you know, trying to figure stuff out. Whereas the dog in this movie, I hadn't read the transcript of the movie, but I read it afterwards, and philosophical. That's the exact word that they use in the description. And that was exactly what I thought. After about 20 minutes, I'm thinking, you know, to begin with, the dog was a puppy. And even when it was a puppy, it had such a philosophical outlook on life. And I'm thinking, you know, like, it was just weird. It was like a weird for a dog, especially when he was a pup. Maybe if he got more philosophical as he got older, but it was philosophical right from day one. A little bit witty. In the early days, I chuckled a few times, and so did people in the audience. But after that, after the first kind of 20 minutes, there was no more laughing. The audience didn't laugh at all anymore during the movie. And like I say, the dog was just so philosophical, and it was weird. It was just so weird. But maybe I missed something in the first 10 minutes that would have set this up and made it seem less weird, but I don't feel like I did. I feel like I pretty much caught the movie right at the start. His first race, the dog was a very young pup, and the way it was talking, it sounded like I really hadn't missed anything at all. And it was just incredibly bizarre. You kind of loved the dog, his cuteness when he was on camera and what he was doing, but whenever the dog spoke, you're just thinking like, God, it's weird. It's like watching a movie with some intellectual geek who is far more clever than you and just makes you feel like crap because of how they speak, and you're not on the same page. And that was what the dog was like. It was like you couldn't relate to the dog. It was like, when I think about what a dog thinks in their head, like my own dogs and stuff, and Canine and Turner and Hooch and all that, I am not thinking the philosophical kind of mumbo jumbo that this dog was speaking. So I just couldn't really relate to the dog and you know, get into him. Now, fortunately, this wasn't too dramatic a movie like, for instance, the other Dog's Journey have been. You know, it wasn't too... there was nothing too drastic happen, so I was pleased about that, because I don't really want to go to the cinema just to cry. I'm not going to lie, not something I really want to do. But the content of the movie itself was quite powerful, emotional, and for the majority of the movie, downright sad and depressing. This is not at all an uplifting movie. This is a depressing, down, you know, things going badly in life, struggles, a little bit just too true to home, you know, a little bit too true to life. There's things in there like issues that his partner goes through that I've dealt with on the same kind of ballpark and stuff. And it's just like, you know, I don't really want to go to the cinema to watch a movie just to depress the hell out of me. You kind of want to go there and be uplifted. So you're thinking, okay, at the end it's going to have a huge uplift, and you know, it didn't really. It was okay, but it wasn't that, oh God, all that depressiveness that's been happening for the first 2 hours. Oh, it's all been lifted away, and oh, I feel fantastic now. Can't say I really did come out of the cinema feeling like that. So you've got this guy's struggle. It's about racing. Not all about racing though, by the way. While it was to do with racing, it wasn't like a movie about racing. It was a movie about family life, family struggles, and there was a flavour of race, Formula One sprinkled in there. The dog's in there all the time as well. But movie about racing, although it looked like it was going to be to start with, it went off on a bit of a turn. So, you know, what were they trying to achieve with this movie? Are they just thinking, right, we need more dog movies? Because I've been saying for years, why is there never more dog movies? You know, Marley and Me, best movie ever, loved it. Turner and Hooch, Canine, they are the 3 best dog movies ever. And in none of those movies do the dogs talk, and they are the 3 best. Just have a bloody movie with a dog in, for God's sake, and stop trying to give the dog some kind of like hilarious speech, because it's never funny and it doesn't work. And I'm afraid it doesn't work in this movie. I didn't not enjoy this movie. I didn't quite enjoy it. I'd probably give it a 6.9. 6.9. Is that generous? Should it be a 6.8? I'm probably going to give this a 6.8. I think a 6.9 is too generous. This is getting a 6.8 out of 10. So, you know, it was okay, just below average, you know, enjoyment-wise. But for the first, it was on for nearly 2 hours, very nearly a 2-hour movie, 1 hour and 50. And for the first hour, I was looking at my clock, for the first hour I was thinking, God, this movie's horrendous. It's just, I'm a little bit bored. I'm not really... the emotional stuff it was taking you through, I hadn't really bought into it. I wasn't really bothered, do you know? And that isn't because I don't care, because I've been through similar stuff myself. But it was just because maybe the director hadn't sucked you into the character and made you really feel for them, maybe. So maybe it's a director's fault. Maybe it was just I wasn't expecting this kind of a movie, so I wasn't quite on that emotional footing that the director wanted me to be on. So after an hour, once it got all this really, really sad, depressing, to a degree a little bit boring stuff out the way, then all of a sudden the movie flipped. So it was kind of like the first 15 minutes it was like racing, yay, this is cool, this is going to be a great movie to do with dogs and racing, this is like my dream movie. Then all of a sudden it goes off in a slightly different direction, and you're like, oh my God, stop depressing me, Jesus, this is just horrendous. Okay, and then once I started to actually enjoy the movie, it kind of goes off in another dark twist. It's dark again, it's going even darker, but I quite enjoyed it, because at least now you felt emotionally involved with the story. All of a sudden the guy who you know, he's down on his luck. You genuinely feel for him. You're backing him. You want him to succeed. You want him to overcome his woes and his troubles. Unlike during the first half of the film, I didn't feel like you cared as much. So the second half of the film, it really did get going, and I really quite enjoyed it. But again, it didn't quite scratch the itch. Like, once it twisted off in that direction, I thought, oh, this is great, this is fantastic, just what I want. It then stumbled and twisted again and took me in a direction that I wasn't really wanting it to go in. It wasn't scratching the itches that I had for this movie. So I didn't know anything about it, just to reiterate, and I went in there not knowing what this movie was about. So, you know, it's a little bit unfair of me to have had my own expectations and then criticise it for not being a racing movie involving dogs. But it just, I'm struggling to see the point in the movie. You know, it was okay. It was a fine movie. I would probably watch it again when it's back on TV, but I certainly wouldn't recommend anybody pay to go to the cinema to see this. If you've got the Cineworld Pass like me and you can go for free, yeah, give it a watch at the cinema. Why not, you know? But if it's the choice of seeing this and seeing even The Lion King again, I'd probably say go and see The Lion King again and just wait for this to come out when it comes out on DVD, you know. But like I said, I'm giving it a 6.8 out of 10. It wasn't terrible, but it just didn't really do much for me. And I really liked the main character, the guy that was in it. You know, he was great, really liked him. You're really on his side and everything like that. But yeah, and like I say, the way the story panned out, it had the happiness as well as the dark side. But you didn't come out of the cinema skipping your heels quite as much as the darkness in the early stages suggested that you should have. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything else I was wanting to say about this. Like I say, the dog's voice was the main thing that I found a little bit weird. I didn't like the dog's voice either. It was Kevin Costner. Sorry, Kevin Costner. I mean, that's a pretty awesome person to get as a dog's voice, but his voice didn't do it for me. His voice was too grown up for the dog. I guess I've just been watching the movies, you know, that, like I said earlier, that A Dog's Purpose, where the voice is very much a child's happy-go-lucky, kind of optimistic, childish voice, whereas right from this dog being a pup, it was a grown-up, philosophical, almost like Stephen Hawking's brain in a dog sort of a voice. It was just a bit weird. It didn't really work for me. The movie as a whole, it was okay, but really, the movie didn't work for me, I'm afraid. You know, the dog's voice was the worst thing about it. Few tear-jerky moments, you know, it just, you do feel it emotionally unless you've got the heart of a stone, but on the whole, no, I'm afraid. So I hope that's helped you understand what this movie was about. I certainly didn't know what it was about when I went to see it. I'd stay away, I'm afraid, at the cinema. It's not necessary to see at the cinema. There's no spectacular scenes. Even the racing scenes, you know, they don't really make it to the best that they could to be a cinematic masterpiece. It's just okay. So you could watch it at home on TV and enjoy it just as much. So save your money, and I would probably say save your time. Go and see Spider-Man again. Go and see Lion King again. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Quentin Tarantino's movies coming out. You know, there's a lot more to see rather than this. I'm taking the hit so you don't have to. And this is one where, although I'm giving it a 6.8 out of 10, which doesn't sound terrible, it was a disappointment. It was just okay. I didn't pay to see this, so, you know, I'm watching it a little bit more objectively and possibly giving it higher scores because I haven't shelled out £10 to go to the cinema and see it. But if I was you, I wouldn't catch this one at the cinema, I'm afraid. Even though it's got dogs in, even though it's got racing, it just didn't quite fulfill its potential that it showed within the first 20 minutes. So I look forward to hearing what other people have had to say about this. I stay away from reviews until I've seen the movie myself because I don't want to be influenced, and also I don't want plot spoilers and I don't want the movie at all to be given away. As you'll know from my reviews, I haven't told you anything about what happens in the movie. I've just given you a bit of a flavour to help you understand what the movie is about. So I hope that's helped. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next review. Goodbye.